keep this safely for me. When you want it back, you can't get it back. إِلَّا مَا دُمْتَ عَلَيْهِ قَائِمَةً. The only way you could get back your gold coin, your dinar, is if you stand there and you pound them and you pound them and you demand it and demand it and demand it back. Why? ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَالُوا. This is because they argue, لَيْسَ عَلَيْنَا فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ السَّبِيلٌ. We have no moral obligations to these ummiyun. We have no obligation to maintain an ethical standard with these ummiyun. Ummi, when we use the term, we understand it as one who cannot read and write, but when a Jew uses it, he uses it to mean one who is not a Jew. Gentile. وَيَقُولُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ الْكَذِبَ وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. Allah said, but they tell a lie against me, and they know it's a lie. And so in this ayah of the Quran, there is the word dinar. So sunnah money is also money in the Quran. Dinar is in the Quran, dirham is in the Quran, and when Allah speaks of a dinar in the Quran, I can assure you tonight, in Giyc, he's not talking about a paper dinar. He's talking about a gold coin. Sunnah money is in the Quran. I leave behind me two things. So long as you hold on to them, you will never go astray. The book of Allah, and we've abandoned it. And my sunnah, and we've abandoned it. Why now was it haram to exchange 2 baskets of dates for one? Why was it riba? Answer: because dates were used as money. Since dates were used as money, if we permit a transfer of 1 on this side and 2 on this side, we will open the door for money to be lent on interest. That's why. Well, then why was it halal to exchange 4 camels for 1? Now, that's an easy question. Who can answer that question for me? Yes? The 4 camels were male, and the 1 was female. No, that's not the answer. Yes? That's the answer, correct. Because camels were not used as money. Did I tell you that story about the fellow who was paid his salary? He worked for the whole month, and at the end of the month he got his salary, and his salary was a camel. So he was taking the camel home when the camel died. So when he reached home, he said to his wife, salary died. Salary died. So wife said, go tell the boss. So he went and said, boss, salary died. Boss said, when I gave you salary, salary was alive. Salary was alive. Huh? Because animals are perishable. They can die. They can fall ill. If you use animals as money, you're going to have a mountain of problems on your head. And so animals were never used as money. Since animals were not used as money, you can have an exchange of 4 camels for 1, or 20 camels for 1. Now then, we've introduced you to Sunnah money. Now let us explain what are the functions of money. I need a haircut. And my wife says to me, Imran, I'm tired cutting your hair, why don't you go to the barber? So I went to the barber, barber cut my hair. I've got to pay him now. So I offer him a copy of my book, Prohibition of Riba, in the Quran and Sunnah. The barber looked at me with a very strange look on his face. He said, Sheikh, I am afraid I'm not interested in reading your book. How can I pay him? This is called barter. Barter has its limitations. As they found out in Yugoslavia, as they're finding out in Indonesia now, barter has its limitations. What I need is money, something which can function as a medium of exchange. I pay him for the haircut with money. He goes to the market and he buys tomatoes with money. That vendor comes, he buys my book, Prohibition of Riba in the Quran and Sunnah, with money. This is now money functioning as a medium of exchange. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who created us with needs which cannot be satisfied except through buying and selling, must also have created money which can function as a medium of exchange. Sunnah money perform that function successfully. Yes, I know somebody will argue that it was not as convenient to have dates as money as it is to have some pieces of paper in your wallet. I know that argument. But the fact is that Sunnah money functions successfully as a medium of exchange. Second function of money. Second function of money. Every single home I went to in South Africa, every single home, it was a black woman. A black woman. As a domestic servant. Yeah. And she was working from morning until night. For the whole month. A black woman. So I scratched my head and I said, if that is Islam, I need to do some work here. Huh? That couldn't possibly be Islam. In every single home, a black woman, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, as domestic servants, working from morning to night. That's a recipe for disaster. How much shall we pay her for her labor? One of the functions of money now must be to be functioning as a measure, a value. What is the value of the labor of that woman? She works for the whole month, and a unit which she understands is a bag of corn. They call it mealie, the staple diet of the African people in southern Africa. So maybe 40 bags of corn, maybe 5 or 10 she would use for eating, another 5 she'd use for clothing, another 5 she'd use for transport and so on. 40 bags of corn would be a measure of her value, of the labor. But then there's a third function of money. So long as we use Sunnah money functions successfully as a medium of exchange and as a faithful measure of value, so that she always got what would be a just wage. But there's a third function of money. If I work for the whole month and I get a salary with which I can buy a camel, you remember, and I take that money home and I say to my wife, put it away. 10 years later when I take it out,